that cannot be seen is the most dangerous. It doesn't shout, it doesn't demand, it doesn't beg, and yet it makes others fall silent before you even speak. It's not magic, it's not coincidence. It's a construction. It's the philosophy of presence. Silent, calm, yet so intense that it changes the temperature of the air. In today's world where everyone fights for attention, the one who knows how to be silent with intention, the one who knows how to be before they are noticed, becomes someone who cannot be ignored. Power doesn't shout, it transcends you. True strength doesn't lie in making people fear you. It lies in their inability to forget about you. They don't fear what you do, but what they never fully say to you. They fear the silence in which you appear. Philosophers like Pascal, Nietzsche and Lao Tzu knew that the most overwhelming presence is the one that imposes nothing. You don't need to speak loudly. You don't need to defend yourself. You just need to be, and not try to explain yourself. Silence with intention is like a knife. It doesn't need to move to cut. A shadow instead of mirror. Most people want to be understood. They want to be readable, clearly visible to the world. They want to be accepted, recognized. But here lies the weakness. What is visible can be judged. What is predictable can be controlled. True power does not show its soul. It casts a shadow, not a reflection. When people don't know what you think, they start to guess. And when they guess, they are already under your influence. They create your myth, and the myth is stronger than any version of truth you could give them. Passivity as a strategy. Don't confuse passivity with helplessness. Are you doing nothing? Maybe, but you're observing everything. Your calm doesn't come from indifference, but from control. Your silence is not emptiness, it's the silence before the storm you manage. In a world of noise, the one who isn't in a rush, who doesn't need social proof, begins to dominate, not through movement, but through the weight of their impenetrable presence. Changeability and unpredictability. Never let anyone think they've figured you out. Today you are gentle, tomorrow cold. Today you laugh, tomorrow you disappear. Not because you are unstable, but because you are unavailable to patterns. Taoist philosophy teaches, be like water. Don't let yourself be captured in a definite form. Don't let your boundaries be clear, because what cannot be named cannot be defeated. V. Aura before the word is spoken. Before you say a word, people already feel your presence. Why? Because you've learned not to hurry. Your body says, I have time. Your movements say, I don't need your approval. Your face says, I don't need your understanding. It's not a game. It's a philosophy of being. You're not an actor. You're a phenomenon. V. Minimalism of power. Power that is not imposed is power that is felt. You don't need to be the loudest. You don't need to be the most present. You just need to be the most expressive in your absence. People will say, he didn't say anything, and still everything changed. This is not a gift. It's the result of precise management of when you appear and when you disappear again. V. Discipline. Discipline. When no one is watching, the greatest strength is not born publicly. It is born in the moments when no one sees you. In your choice not to respond immediately. In your training of a gaze that says everything, though it says nothing. In your decision not to succumb to cheap sympathy. What you do in silence becomes what others feel in your presence. V. Energetically expensive. Your attention must have a price. You don't give it to everyone. You don't comment on everything. You don't go everywhere. People must feel that contact with you is an honor, not an obviousness. In Stoic philosophy there is a principle. Do not be cheap in what is most valuable. And the most valuable is your energy, your presence, your silence. X. Disappear to be remembered. Don't be around too often. Let people miss you. Let them wonder, where did he disappear to? What is he planning? Why didn't he reply? It is at that moment that you are in their minds the most. Your absence begins to work more than the presence of anyone else. X. Do not live in their rhythm. Impose your own. If you enter someone else's tempo, you lose. If you try to gain their attention, you surrender power. If you wait for them to notice you, you give them control. And the philosophy of strength is clear. Do not ask for a seat at the table. Build your own table. Do not join the conversation. Change the tone of the entire room. Do not be visible. Be unforgettable. Do not try to be everywhere. Do not try to be liked. Do not try to be available. Be rare. Be calm. Be a mystery. Because mystery is not weakness. It is a weapon. When they cannot read you, they cannot resist you. When they do not know what you want, they start to guess. And when they start guessing, they are already under your influence. This is the philosophy of silent domination. Do not say everything. Do not show everything. But make them feel everything. Because those who do not need to be loud to heard are the ones the world can no longer ignore. Do not justify yourself. Build presence. But here's the paradox. The more someone becomes aware of their own power, the less they show it. Truly powerful people don't need to speak loudly. They don't need to rise in anger or prove their worth. Their presence speaks for them. This is silence that screams. Notice how the most effective leaders, mentors, and leaders behave. They are not the ones who speak the most, but those who listen the most. The power of silence is a weapon no one expects, but everyone feels. People are afraid of empty spaces in conversation. They start talking too much, revealing too much, exposing their strategy. Meanwhile, you, standing in silence, fill this space with an aura of mystery. And here we reach another level of this game. Illusion. Because true power is not about being everything. It's about others thinking you could be everything. You create an image, a projection. You don't lie, you just don't straighten their assumptions. You let them build the myth. The less specifics about yourself you reveal, the more people will fill in the rest. And their imagination will always create something more powerful than your reality. This is why great manipulators, the silent, strategic, unavailable ones, are so effective. They do not show their whole hand. Sometimes they even pretend weakness to lull others vigilant. They are like a chess who seemingly gives up a piece only to checkmate the opponent in 3 moves. But beware, the game does not end with influence over others. Because the greatest and hardest battle is the one you fight within yourself. It's no longer just about controlling others. It's about not letting yourself be controlled by your impulses, ego, or desires for revenge. This is where true power begins. When you have control over your own head, emotions, and reactions. This is the hardest part: to remain silent when someone provokes you. To walk away when your ego screams to stay. To forgive when you have the power to destroy. But it is then that you create around yourself an aura of impenetrable strength. This is not weakness, it's a higher level of strategy. Because light attracts the most when it does not try to attract. And that's the essence. Your greatest influence comes when you do not try to influence. When your presence, your character, your consistency create a gravity that others cannot resist. People will trust you, even though they don't know why. They will fear you, even though you've never raised your voice. They will desire you even though you never tried to seduce anyone. And that's when you have everything. But here's the last trap. Can you carry it? Because the greater the control, the greater the responsibility. You have influence, you have power. You can destroy someone's life or save it with a single word, a single decision, a single glance. That's why not everyone should learn this knowledge. Not everyone is ready to bear the weight of influence. Not everyone has a heart that won't get lost in revenge, pride, or superiority. But if you have the strength to remain silent when you could scream, if you can walk away when you could destroy, if you can refrain from responding when the world demands your reaction, then you have achieved what most people will never understand: the power over yourself. But here's the secret. The calmer you are, the more it disturbs them. Your silence works like a mirror. You do not give them what they want, which is a reaction. So they begin projecting their fears and intentions onto your character. They cannot read you, so they assume you're more dangerous than you really are. Silence is not weakness. At the right moment, it is the purest form of domination. What is unclear scares, what is unsaid has power, and what is unpredictable throws every opponent's strategy off balance. That's exactly how Niccolò Machiavelli was. He didn't write about how to be loved, he wrote about how to survive, how to break through the fog of false moralities and learn to live in the world as it truly is, not as we wish it to be. And here's the question: can you do it? Can you be someone who cannot be easily classified? Someone who looks deeply but says little? Someone who enters a room and changes the energy without raising their voice? Power is not always loud. Sometimes it takes the form of presence that does not tolerate opposition. Machiavelli knew that in a world full of appearances and noise, the most valuable currency is not fame, but control. And here we arrive at another principle: control what people see but never show everything. You may think that to gain recognition you must be completely transparent, that honesty and openness are the keys to acceptance. But that is the lie society repeats to keep you predictable and safe. Machiavelli knew that what is hidden, what is partial, creates legend. When people see only a fragment, they begin to fill in the rest with their own fantasies. And nothing is more powerful than being imagined. Let your intentions always be partially concealed. Do not explain yourself. Do not justify yourself. Do not reveal your plans until they are unstoppable. What is mysterious has an aura of inaccessibility, and that creates respect. But perhaps you'll ask, won't I be lonely then? Yes, probably yes. Because power and loneliness are twin sisters. You can't have one without the other. But it is in this loneliness that character is forged. When you stop seeking approval, you start to truly see who you are. And then others see it too, not as someone who wants to fit in, but as a figure that must be reckoned with, a force to be respected. Now another rule: never act in a state of emotional turmoil. Power loves coldness. Only a cold mind can see through the fog of others' emotions. When you're too available, too reactive, you become like an open book. Anyone can read you. But when you're calm, even under pressure, your opponent doesn't know what you're thinking. And that's when they lose control. Because control isn't about dominating others, but about dominating yourself in their presence. That's why the most dangerous people are those who don't need to raise their voices to be heard. They're the ones who could destroy you, but choose silence. And here arises the last, most terrifying truth. The greatest strength is the one that doesn't have to manifest. Sometimes the greatest victory isn't defeating your opponent, but making them too afraid to even attack you. But there is one more weapon, subtler, quieter, and yet finer. It is the ability to control your emotions when others are losing control of theirs. Machiavelli knew that an explosive person, although they may instill fear, always reveals their weaknesses. Emotion exposes what should have remained hidden. In anger, you reveal your pride. In jealousy, your fear of comparison. And in injury, your vulnerability. But the person who doesn't react, the one who stays silent while everyone else shouts, becomes a mystery, an unmoved face in a world of chaos. The one who is truly dangerous isn't the one with the weapon, but the one who holds it invisibly. Perhaps they don't even have one, but the mere possibility that they might is enough for others to adjust their move. This is psychological leverage. You don't need to be dangerous, you just need others to believe you are.
In human relationships, this mechanism works with surgical precision. Sometimes all it takes is a single look, a brief silence, a glance turned at the right moment, and the other person starts analyzing themselves. Did I do something wrong? Does he know something? Why isn't he speaking? Your lack of reaction becomes a mirror in which others see their own anxieties. You do nothing, and yet you dominate the situation. Because in the game of influence, it's not about who speaks more, it's about who forces others to speak for them. Machiavelli didn't create rules to be worshipped. He described the world as it was: brutal, unpredictable, seemingly chaotic. But beneath this apparent anarchy, there was order, the order of hierarchy, strategy, and fear. In this world, the strongest isn't the one who hits, it's the one who no one dares to strike. The one who understands human psychology better than they do, who knows that the need for recognition, the fear of rejection, the feeling of guilt, all these are levers that don't need to be used. All you need to do is keep your hand on them and show that you could. This is why some people walk into a room and the entire atmosphere shifts. People straighten their backs, choose their words more carefully, analyze their gestures. Not because this person is shouting, but because in their silence is a story of battles they've won without firing a shot. This type of presence, unobvious, yet crushing, commands respect stronger than any command. In a world where everyone is shouting, the one who can remain silent and watch becomes the king. But not everyone can bear this weight, because this is not a path for those who want to be liked. This is not a life for those who crave sympathy and acceptance. It is the choice of the loners, the strategists, people who know that in order to rule, sometimes you have to be ready to be hated. As Machiavelli himself said, it is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both. This is not a call for tyranny, it is a brutal acknowledgement that the world doesn't always reward goodness, but almost always respects power. And the greatest power is the one that doesn't have to be spoken aloud. This is how you build an aura, not through decorations, not through illusions, but through discipline, restraint, and a deep understanding of human nature. You don't have to be understood, you just need to be felt. In a world overflowing with noise, Your silence can be a nuclear weapon. And here lies the secret. You don't dominate because you're loud. You dominate because you're inscrutable. But here arises the paradox. The person who truly understands the principles of power rarely desires, because they know how much it costs. They know that the more control over the external world, the greater the need for control over oneself. And that is the hardest part. Here echoes the Stoic philosophy. Seneca wrote, "The greatest power is the one who controls themselves." And this is no cliché. This is a brutal truth. Because if you're a slave to your emotions, if you're easily angered, manipulated, or deceived, you have no power. You are just an actor in someone else's play. Power, true power, begins with mastering your internal chaos. Anger, fear, impulse, the need for recognition. And it is this inner order that makes you someone others instinctively respect. Because you can't be broken. You don't succumb to pressure. You don't react. You decide. One of the most terrifying traits of a truly dangerous person is their unreadability. When no one knows what you're thinking. When your eyes betray neither anger nor pity. When you stay silent where others shout. When you don't respond to attack with attack, but simply watch and wait. This unsettles people, because you don't give them control. They don't know if you will win or lose, but they know you're playing differently. And that makes you a mystery. And every mystery attracts attention. People feel safest when they can categorize you. But when you're impossible to classify, you become unsettling, mysterious, attractive. And this is your advantage. In a culture of excess, where everyone wants to show something, say something, prove something, power becomes emptiness. Strategy masters like Sun Tzu understood this perfectly. Sometimes what you don't say is more powerful than 1,000 words. Silence becomes a weapon. Lack of reaction a strategy. Indifference, domination. Not because you have nothing to say, but because you don't need to speak. Because power doesn't shout, power whispers, and most often remains silent. This echoes Zen philosophy, where emptiness doesn't mean lack, but readiness. Readiness to act without compulsion. Readiness to respond without anger. Readiness to leave without a word. Anyone who plays the power game needs one thing: solitude. Not just physical, but mental. Loneliness is the place where you can hear your true intentions, understand what you really want, and decide if you're willing to pay the price. Because every domination comes at a cost. Sometimes it's loneliness, sometimes moral grayness, sometimes a severance from the world that no longer understands you. But it is in this solitude that the soul is forged, because there is no influence without sacrifice, no authority without isolation, no strength without patience. Power is not just social domination, it is a field of energy. People can feel it. If you are chaotic, stressed, attention-seeking, your energy becomes heavy, scattered. But if you are internally focused, calm, and unpredictable, your presence attracts. This is why some people walk into a room and automatically become the center. They said not a word. They showed no status. And yet, you feel they have power. This is energy. Energy born from discipline, not noise. From control, not domination. From awareness, not a mask. And this energy creates a field invisible, but real, that people recognize and feel and submit to, though they don't understand why.